isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
This circuit needs no introduction. It is the third oldest purpose-built motor racing circuit, following in the footsteps of the now defunct Brooklyn circuit in the United Kingdom and the Brickyard Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Indianapolis, Indiana, USA. The Autodromo Nazionale Monza is simply called the Temple of Speed. And here tonight we will see speeds approaching close to 200 miles an hour around this 3.6 mile circuit for 60 minutes. Hello everybody, welcome along to Racer Nexus and to the FMA Prototype Challenge Series GTP and LMP2 multi-class. Well, firstly, it's myself, Alex Goldschmidt, back in the booth after my globe trotting, as my good colleague and friend of the Global Broadcast Centre joins me once again, Marshall Crocker. Good evening. It was a bit of a shame that I had to miss out on the 90-minute Enduro where we added GT3 to the mix, but it's good to be back at this particular circuit, located just a stone's throw away from the fashion capital of the world, Milan.
Yeah, I can't wait at all. You're certainly the pro in the class of the play-by-play men for this series, but Brian Zinn was what we call a super silver there last week. He did a great job subbing in for you. He put on a great show, and so did the drivers. It's been an awesome season so far in FMA Prototype Challenge. We got two very competitive championship battles, two for the price of one, and today I said it to you pre-race here, Alex. These races here at Monza for drivers in the sim, they often feel like anything goes, anybody can take it races, similar to a super speedway for the oval drivers. Everybody feels like there's opportunity. Everybody feels like with the right execution and the right amount of chaos, the race can go anybody's way. I think a lot of drivers in the field tonight might think they have a chance to get on the board, and both classes have seen relative domination in our race winners. Today might be a day for a little bit of change.
Yes, indeed. And let's take you through the circuit itself. Broke ground back on the 15th of May 1922 and was open in September later on that year. It measures 5.739 kilometers, 3.6 miles, runs clockwise, 11 turns, 4 to the left, 7 to the right. It has hosted the Italian Grand Prix from 1950 to 1979 and from 1981 to the present day. It has also hosted GT World Challenge Europe, FIA WEC, the Italian Motorcycle Grand Prix, TCR World Tour, World Superbikes, the FIA Endurance World Championship, Monza Rally Show, the WTCC Race of Italy, and the Race of Two Worlds between 1957 and 1958. You're going to have to look that latter one up. However, let's take you through the scores as they stand in both the GTP and the LMP2 classes. Brock Morris has a slender 11-point lead over Anthony Jenkins, and Jay Davis has become Mr. Consistency in the class as he rounds out your top three. Chase Matsko in the Alfa Romeo Kimi Raikkonen tribute livery 499P. I did say this to Marshall earlier. I would have loved to have seen him in a full Cavallino Rampante, true traditional WEC livery for this one, but never mind. Ryan Peters rounds out the top 5 ahead of Brian Scott, Faraz Ibrahim, Ivan Gelmet, Anthony Sorrentino. Zach Tankersley ran at the top 10. Jeremy Eshelman, 20 points ahead of Decio Lima, with Gustavo Ferraro rounding out the top 3. Inacio Arroyo and Broughton Jones round out the top 5. Jody Nielsen and two-time winner of the series back-to-back, Macon Ginzoni, ran out your top 7 ahead of Eduardo Sales, BA Brandon Anderson, David Marino. And qualifying, as I have just said, that has been completed. So it's now time to head trackside to where things are going to get very, very messy. High speeds, heavy braking zones, and plenty of slipstreaming will be 3 of the main talking points, the 3 keys to the race here at Monza. And it is Anthony Jenkins that has put it on pole position ahead of Brian Scott in the 85 Caddy, Brock Morris in the 85 Porsche. That is your starting grid, row 1. Brock Morris and Zach Tankersley ran out the top 2 rows, with Bruno Lopez in the number 2 Ferrari and Chase Matsko in the sister Ferrari alongside on row 3. Evan Gilmet and Jay Davis, Porsche and Caddy, row 4. Jacob Brown, PJ Wentline ran out the top 10 overall, and Anthony Sorrentino in the 604 Ferrari line up 11th. Anthony Branco takes pole in LMP2 ahead of Broughton Jones. Then it's Macon Ginzoni. Can he make it 3 for 3 here at Monza? He's joined by Matt Mars on row 2 of the LMP2 division, row 7 overall. Then it is Brandon Anderson and Gustavo Ferraro, followed by Decio Lima and current LMP2 points leader Jeremy Eshelman. They round out row number 9, completing your top 20. Ignacio Arroyo from Puerto Rico, Darren Sanford from the USA. Last, but certainly by no means least, another 2 cars to round out the grid, where we've got James Tankersley, so obviously related to Zach. It looks like Anthony Sorrentino is going to be starting all the way down in 21st, with Christopher Pugliese rounding out the 23 strong grid. Porsche pace car is ready to lead the field out of Saraglio and into the triple apex chicane known as Variante Viscari. And in 2 days' time, it will be 25 years to the day of the passing of late Ferrari Formula One driver who finished runner-up in 1985 and also was an Audi Sport LMP driver until his sudden passing during a testing accident at the Lausnitz ring, Cayley Alboreto. And of course, the last corner, turn 11, used to be known as Curva Parabolica. It is now named in Michele's honor as Curva Alboreto. And 25 years since a man who raced against Giancarlo Ginzani, who now runs his own Porsche Carrera Cup Italia team under Prima Ginzani Motorsports. And funnily enough, I will be on my jet-setting adventures on Porsche Sports Cup Suisse next week, because I've made Marshall Crocker very jealous. I'm heading to the Temple of Speed in person next week for their second round out of 6. But Marshall, this is going to be crucial, because we have to look at the track temps. We were at 40 degrees centigrade in qualifying. That was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We're a little bit lower than that, in the mid-90s on the track temp. A little bit higher towards the low 70s in the air as we are about to get things underway.
Yeah, I know these are some of the best racing machines, the best pieces of technological machinery in the entire world of motorsport. They are going to feel like boats in the first couple of corners. This track is going to eat up grip. It's going to be tough. These corners are high leverage. They require lots of lateral load. Get ready to see chaos on lap 1.
So it's going to be the run down to the Rettifilio as we get set and ready for 60 minutes here at the Temple of Speed at Monza. It is going to be a long, long wait, but we go green, and it's pedal to the metal here at Monza, and now the drivers can start to overtake and attack. Anthony Jenkins leads the field, heading into the Variante della Rettifilio. Here at turns 1 and 2, the famed spot where Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen came together whilst battling away for a Formula One world title, with Hamilton at that point still at Mercedes. Meantime, there's been dramas as Anderson is around. Oh, dearie me, that was a Co-Brown. Clean up on aisle 3, mop up the mess after you. However, Matt Mars now has got a slow down penalty. He's taken off the track. Meantime, there we go. That is going to be... and Macon Ginzani, the 2-time race winner from the last 2 rounds of the series at Red Bull Ring and Spa, has just had a drama of his own. So the Brazilian all the way down in 11th position in the LMP2 Class 2 of our main protagonists. I think if I remember correctly, is look, this is the replay. 4 wide, never goes into Rettifilio. And that was just all hell and bedlam breaking loose. Ginzoni gets punted from behind. Brandon Anderson has nowhere to go. And we're now going to see it again. And who's on the inside? I think that was Matt Mars. Yeah, that was Matt Mars. So he got an off track. Ginzoni gets punted by Mars from behind. He's got nowhere to go into Rettifilio. And just all hell breaks loose in LMP. And I think even Jeremy Escherman got a little bit of a helping hand around coming through turn 2. So again, it has not been a good night for some of our leading contenders as, oh, dearie me, Jeremy Escherman off again. Oh, no! Oh, that's a big hit. Big hit for Macon Ghazani in the car. The Vortex Racing entry is into the pit straight away. So we're going to see Macon Ghazani gets through. Jeremy Escherman's lost it at Della Roggia. And then who is that just not held the brakes at all? That was the 958 Aaron Sanford, who's, there are times in the commentator's career, Marshall, where people are speechless. That, for me, I've never seen that at Monza on iRacing, nor real life. What, I think, big F in chat, I think is what I'm going to say right now.
I like that. That's an effective and modern way to put it. Unbelievable scenes in the first lap. That's 2 of our best in the LMP2 class. Maybe our 2 best on pure pace. Ginzoni and Anderson both out early in P1 incidents. That's Anderson, Arroyo, Ginzoni, and Sanford. All off the racetrack now in the pits with severe damage. Looking at how the GTP class got kicked off, they were considerably cleaner. Sorrentino now going through the field from the back of the field. He started on pit lane. The rest of the top 10 all still relatively in row. You can actually see PJ Wentline, P10, the back of this lead train of GTPs. He's still in frame, so a much cleaner start for the top class of drivers. Brock Morris there in the early stages has pipped Brian Scott for P2. He now sets about chasing down Anthony Jenkins, our race leader and pole sitter. And, well, doesn't it feel like we've seen this story before there, Mr. Alex Goldschmidt? I know you watched last week's race at Spa. We see this a lot, don't we? Jenkins versus Morris. Often Jenkins on pole, sometimes Morris on pole. Credit, though, before we see this battle start to kick off, fastest legal lap time to start this race would be Mr. Zachary Tankersley there in P4.
Well, it isn't now because Brian Scott has just done a 36.2 flat on the nose in the number 85 Porsche with the FMA livery on it. But yeah, so again, Monza can bite. I've seen, I think I went actually to Monza twice last year. First for Porsche Sports Cup Suisse, as Decio Lima now holding the fort for the all-Brazilian crew at the Vortex Racing outfit in the 119. Started P7, and because of the fact we've got Anderson, Arroyo is in there, Ginzoni, Sanford, they're all in there. They've been in there for at least a minute 45 as we've had more dramas. Well, it is getting a bit feisty out there. Evan Gilmet has had a little bit of an off track. They've got to watch themselves through the Lesmos. Top speed recorded at the moment. The fastest out on the circuit at the minute is Jacob Brown in the number 13 Cadillac V Series GTP, 196.3 miles an hour. Now this is one of the things we like. We like to see the drivers concentrating. We're on with Anthony Jenkins at the minute as he is being chased down by Brock Morris. Gap is now about 2.5 tenths of a second as they come out of Curva Alvareto. As the man from Tampa, Florida, leads the way as we are about to complete lap number 3 of this race. Now, because this circuit is quite heavily right foot driven, let's say, that's full throttle down, folks. Speed and also knowing when to pit, because one of the things with these high temperatures, degradation is going to be a consideration on the rear tyres, and also the brakes. You know, you could potentially, you know, there's no flat spotting on iRacing, but you can inadvertently, through heavy braking, locking up going into, say, Rettifilio, going into Della Roggia here, Marshall, that you might cause a little bit of uneven and unwanted front wheel deg.
Yeah, this is the soft-footed gentleman's track to be sure. As Anthony Barranco, race leader in LMP2, I just saw just a moment ago, he had a brief off-track moment. He's going to drop that top spot in class down to Decio Lima, who's now up from P7. But as we take a look back here quickly at that Barranco incident as he heads into turn 1, rear lock that time, rear complete loss of grip, and that's often the story of these LMP2 cars with the open setup. A lot of cars really trimmed out for downforce, and that brake bias, that front back, priority on your braking pattern, that is going to play total control over whether your front or your back steps out on you. And that's kind of the trade-off to that point you just made there, Alex, with, a lot of front deg for those that are unfortunate enough to not be patient and gentle with their braking foot, and specifically their ability to be patient getting back on the gas. As you see Breno Lopez there, Vortex Racing driver, he's now starting in GTP. He's the only entry in that team of Brazilian drivers up here in the GTP class. We saw it even a little bit from him, that car dancing on the exit of Alboreto because a little bit early on the gas. It's so antithetical to what you think of as a driver, right, Alex? You're like, all right, I want to get that car pointed in a straight line, I want to get the foot down, and I want to be that first guy back on the run down to the next corner. But in doing so, it may be good in the short term, it may look good in the lap time and the relative, but in 10 laps from now, when you're unable to turn that left-hander into turn 2, you're going to be wishing you were a little more patient in the early stages.
Now, we had a brief chat before we went on air here, Marshall, about liveries. Now, if we take a look at Anthony Barranco's car, the number 59, now that is the livery that Rebellion Racing ran in the 2019 to 2020 WEC Super Season. And funny enough, I found a very nice article from a good friend of mine, John Daggis, who is part of the ownership team at Sports Car 365. In car number 1, it was Bruno Senna, Gustavo Menezes, and Norman Nato running the number 1 car in the full season, and then they also had a number 3 car running as well. Because if people might be a bit eagle-eyed on there, you'll notice that TVR Racing was on the nose and also on the front part of the rear fenders of that car. And I think, if I remember correctly, I think Daniel Abt at one point ran for Rebellion Racing at some point. Obviously, the man who is now head of the Abt tuning firm, which has ran in Formula E, the DTM, and also Daniel himself ran in German Formula 3, ran in Formula E when it was Audi Sport Abt Schiffler. Of course, we're not going to talk much about his sim racing antics, and all I'm going to say about that is, if you know, know. But more to the point, that's really cool that Anthony Barranco has brought in a little bit of LMP2 nostalgia here into the FMA Prototype Challenge Series, as we're on board with the number 68 Porsche 963 Hybrid, Evan Guillemette being chased down by the Kimi Raikkonen Special Ferrari 499P, courtesy of Chase Matsko. Now, there was one penalty, if I remember correctly, from the race at Spa last time out, and it was basically a case of the penalties that were issued. It was the fact that Brandon Dempsey in the 199 got a 5-point penalty for aggressive lap car overtake causing collision. But Brandon is not on the grid tonight, so he's escaped that one until the next time he jumps on the grid with us here at FMA.
Bit of an off-track moment there from Broughton Jones, who's actually been running really well to this point in the race, running 4th in LMP2 right now. He's he's running pretty consistently in the low 142s, pardon me, which seems like it's going to be the money spot today in that second class. Our current top spot holder there in the LMP2 second-tier class. Well, right now it's Decio Lima here at the moment, but Anthony Barranco chasing after that earlier mistake we saw in turn 1, losing the rear grip. And to get those tires back within a window so quickly, he's back to running 141.8 versus Decio Lima 142.3 that last time by. Not to mention, he's now found his way back to the draft, has Anthony Barranco. That's going to be huge, probably somewhere in the realm of 6 to 8 tenths a lap up here in the LMP2 class. That's even considering the loss of dirty air downforce here through long sweeping right-handers like this one. Barranco doing a good job, though, to keep an eye on him. We'll see down the straightaway what the run looks like, because that's about as clean of an exit as you can get here, Alex. We will see what the passing potential is today in that second tier, but I'll tell you, He is looking quick as Mr. Barranco as he tries to make up for that early error.
Yeah, that gap has shriveled by a tenth going into Rettifilio, but Barranco not close enough alongside, but Lima locks up the right front going into Rettifilio. Barranco switches the outside as they're going to head to turn 3 here at Curva Grande, which will then lead them up to Variante della Roggia, which means that Barranco might have the inside line. They are literally nigh on hip and shoulder checking each other at about 150 plus miles an hour. Barranco's going to go late on the brakes to the inside. And now he gets through. Great move by Barranco in the number 59 Rebellion liveried car, getting through on Decio Lima. Looks like we have had 2 retirements, as I've just seen that Macon Ginzoni has just ended up in the YouTube chat. Both he and Aaron Sanford have called quits. I mean, obviously, with what just happened, those cars were significantly wrecked big time through that incident that we did see. So Macon Ginzoni is going to have to dust himself off, pick himself back up, ready for Hockenheim in just a week's time when we go to another one of the tracks that I have had the opportunity of going to for the DTM finale back in 2014, 2016. Hasn't really changed much over the years, but has hosted the German Grand Prix in its running over the past few years or so. But we've got 12 minutes to go. Well, 12 minutes completed. We've still got 48 minutes left on the counter, and the Slipstream Fest is continuing. Top speeds in LMP2, Broughton Jones in P4, well, at one point it was 179.7 miles an hour. So we've got close to a 15 mile an hour discrepancy. Anthony Sorrentino just broke the speed trap with a 197.3 mile an hour top speed. So that 499p is going well at the moment. Breno Lopez pitted on lap 5 and spent just over 21.5 seconds in the pit lane. But still, at this early stage, you know, the biggest thing is with this being such a full throttle circuit, the only real opportunity that you get to breathe is coming out of Curva Alboreto. There's Breno Lopez in the number 2 car, running in last position. And he is not having a great time in that Ferrari as they just go through the first of the 2 Lesmos. It's very, very unforgiving, this circuit. And especially if we were to use the actual classic loop, which uses the old banking that is still there by the main circuit itself, as we run on board with Decio Lima, trying to close in on Anthony Barranco again for the LMP2 class lead. Chase Matsko has just lost out position. Serve a slowdown penalty behind Evan Gilmet, and that yellow flag has not yet disappeared from the timing tower, so Chase is going to have to serve that very, very quickly, maybe do a little bit of a lift and coast into one particular corner. But the LMP2 class leaders come through Curva Alboreto at turn number 11. If anyone might remember the big high-speed shunt that Charles Leclerc had a few years ago into the outside of the exit of the corner, but this is where they really, really pick up speed. And Decio Lima was over 3/10 quicker than Anthony Barranco going through the lap at 42.5, plays a 42.83, and down into Rettifilio. This time Barranco not doing what Lima did on the previous tour and locking up the right front. Meantime, Gustavo Ferraro and Broughton Jones having their own battle. They're 6/10 apart in the battle for P3, the 777 versus the 444. And then Matt Mars is about 8.7 seconds back in 5th position. PJ Wentline has just had a little bit of a moment. We're going to see, oh, this is the man from Spanish Fort, Brian Scott. And that is through at Della Roggia. Oh, the 85 FMA Porsche spinning around. So Zach Tankersley gets through. And luckily enough, he did not lose a big amount of time, as we see PJ Wentline. This is through the second of the Lesmos going through to Saraglio. But still, a lot of clean battles happening, the closest of which is Brock Morris versus Zach Tankersley. And Tankersley is only 9/10 of a second back. They're bumping over the curves now. And there you see the number 10. We did see Zach earlier on this season in the Meyershank Racing liveried Acura ARX 06 and has now switched to Porsche, which I think is going to serve him better in the long run. It's a more compliant car with that 4.7 litre V8 powered engine with the hybrid assist. It is still a very, very fast car He just clocked 100, nearly 197 miles an hour through the speed trap. Sorrentino and Wentline did 1971 and 1972 miles an hour apiece. So we are edging very, very close to that 200 mile an hour barrier being hit. And there you see the fastest 5 right now. Tankersley 35.6, Brenner Lopez 35, mid 35.8, Brock Morris low 36.03, Sorrentino 36.03, and Jenkins, who leads, just at a 36.08. So that's your fastest 5 right now at this moment in time. But we are past a quarter of an hour here, Marshall, and we're now going to see a lot of drivers thinking about how they're going to play this strategy, because I said about tyres, we haven't talked that much about fuel, but I think this could be maybe one of those circuits where you're at full throttle for 70 to 80% of the lap. You have got to watch that fuel mileage like a hawk. And if you need to start lifting and coasting, you're thinking, right, I'm on that bubble, I'm on that window where I might need to pit in the next lap or two, depending if I end up on fumes going down pit road.
Well, that's such an interesting component of this style of racing, and it's one of those things that everybody's going to have a different philosophy on as a driver. You know, some people, I think I would even fall in this camp myself, some people just like the rhythm. You know, some people like that idea of, I'm at my most comfortable when I'm pushing flat out, when I'm on the limit. I see a guy like Brock Morris in that mold. We've seen him a couple times just dive wide off the racetrack here, trying to carry as much speed through the corners as he can. He's running every lap like it's a qualifying lap because that's what's comfortable for him. That's where he's less likely to make mistakes. Some drivers, it feels easy at home to dial it back to 80%, you know, take a little bit less off the bone every single lap. Some drivers aren't comfortable like that. That's where you start to make your mistakes because you're out of character in the process of saving fuel. So if you're going to save maybe 3-4 laps of fuel over the course of the entire race in the pits, that's valuable. That's real lap time. And if you're a driver, that's what jumps out to me, like a Decio Lima, say in P2, for example, where we know he's got good pace because he keeps catching Barranco here every time he can get in the slipstream. But at a certain point, how beneficial is that? You know it's fairly simple to pass at Monza. You know you can always pull the undercut, or especially the overcut, if you know you're going to have a shorter pit stop. What's the pressure in saying, hey, well, you got to go for the move right now? Although, speaking of, here we go, side by side through the Lesmos 1 and 2. They stay side by side to the outside. Barranco gives them room.
Yeah, this is a bit of more than hip and shoulder check. It's sort of like, how much paint can I scrub off the left side of your vehicle, sir? However, Broughton Jones has now come into the fray, and look, through into Saraglio. He's going to the outside. This could give him the inside run into the first of the 3 apexes hit at Vanianti Ascari. But he decides, discretion being the better part of Valerie knows, there's still plenty of this race left to go. We've seen that Matt Mars has been in the pits. Anthony Sorrentino is also in pit road in the 604 Ferrari 499 P GTP car. Chase Matsko gets another slowdown penalty, but Broughton Jones, can he tee it up? Because he's got Gustavo Ferraro. He's basically the he's the American meat in the Brazilian bread sandwich at the moment, because he's got Gustavo Ferraro chasing him down, and they both dive into the pits. Now this is interesting, because to me it looks like some people have decided maybe to go for a 2-stop strategy. And what I mean by that, folks, is that they might have short fueled and decided, well, I want to get around this circuit as quickly as possible. And the less fuel they have, the quicker those cars are going to be. They're going to be less damaging on the degradation cycle of the tyres, as Brock Morris has come into the pit. So Chase Matsko now in pit lane. So we are seeing, I think this has been the race where the drivers have really decided to think about their strategy, because you're constantly on that, you're constantly looking at that fuel level. Yeah, you're going to be keeping a keen side eye on what the tyres are doing, but here goes Decio Lima, Broughton Jones through into Retafilio. There was nearly a bit of a touch between the pair, but Broughton Jones holds on. Jeremy Eshelman, in the meantime, has now moved up into P3 because these two have pitted. So it looks like we might see a 50-50 spread here, Marshall, on the decision on whether they're going to go on a 2-stop strategy Or maybe try the old the old Checo Perez fuel and tyre whisperer strat. Oh, no. Decio Lima has just lost the back end coming out of Della Roggia, and that has cost him major time to Broughton Jones as Anthony Barranco's pitted. We're going to have a look again. Now he goes onto the brakes, turns in, watch the sausage curbs on the right, hits the sausage curb, car in the air, and it spins it around. So easily done.
Yeah, unbelievably easily there, and it would be very interesting. I don't know for a fact whether he took tires on that pit stop. You got to think that would play a huge piece. His cold tire warm-up here at Monza is unbelievable because you need to have full confidence over curbs and through long, sweeping, high-speed corners. That's the last thing your cold tires want to do. So that is another, and a series of incidents tonight for drivers that, again, this is uncharacteristic for. But that, again, is why I said pre-race, some drivers are going to be really excited for this track on the calendar as we see Branco come out of pit road. We'll see if he holds on to the lead in LMP2 ahead of Broughton Jones. But that is the thing that's gives hope for so many drivers is, yeah, some of the best are just going to make mistakes because the margins at a track this high speed with that setup tuned out for downforce, the margins are so paper thin. Watch the battle on GTP off pit road.
Yeah, Brock Morris, there's all bit of a lock up there. That was by Zach Tankersley, and he just about got it stopped before the runoff area. We've had some very interesting comments about when Marshall, you said, oh, you know the deal, here's the camera link for tonight. Matt Mars, sensible answer. Mine is over the shoulder cam with no driver at the moment. I cannot repeat what Anthony Barranco put. But he referenced the location in Tampa, Florida. That's all I'm saying on that one. Jeremy Eshelman says, he said, Chase Fatsko went to Jeremy Eshelman. You are the only person that hates Monza. And who was that spinning in the background? That was Zach Tankersley, I believe, and he's got a mechanical black flag as well to boot. No, that's Brian Scott. Oh, dear. And now Anthony Jenkins has got the lead ahead of Brock Morris. It's, to me, to you, they do say it's 2 to tango. And we're going to see here, this is out of Curva Grande. Do not tell me he's just done exactly what we saw with Decio Lima into... Oh, he's gone straight on and bang! Zach Tankersley. That's why he got the mechanicals. So maybe that was at high speed. That car was still accelerating. And here goes Brian Scott. He's got, that was Breno Lopez who touches him on the left rear, spins him around, and Brian's a passenger. That was really, really uncharacteristic for Zach Tankersley. I've never seen a GT. That was violent as anything. It was like one of those horror movies where someone just gets literally splattered into smithereens by the baddie.
It felt a little bit like those that have seen the Final Destination movies. It felt like, just one of those situations you could never imagine, but in your worst nightmares. That read to me as probably a hardware issue, which is the worst thing you want to see for a driver running as far up the order of things as Mr. Tankersley was. He had a really good start to the race. He was battling these two gentlemen, and a gift here for Mr. Anthony Jenkins as Brock Morris finds himself behind Ignacio Arroyo here, who will now let him by. Currently the driver sitting in P number 9 in the LMP2 class, Ignacio Arroyo. That was a huge moment there for Jenkins, who into that set of corners, that gap down to 0.3 of a second there between Jenkins and Morris. There were a lot of players in this battle for GTP top honors there earlier. That battle has suddenly disappeared quite quickly here, hasn't it, Alex? We are back to the usual run of things at the sharp end of the grid. Back here, though, keeping an eye, Anthony Sorrentino taking on the gentleman who has recently got that car turned back around and who we know has pace, Brian Scott. Those two are the battle for P7.
Yeah, and also in the Discord in the same chat, Macon Ginzoni at, I think it was about 11 minutes ago, said, I don't think I did anything wrong, but I apologise in advance for any accidents. Well, he was on the receiving end of the accident, not of his making. Let's just put it that way. So Macon has got nothing to apologise for, but yeah, there we see. Ignacio Arroyo's gone into the pits, so that's been more dramas for the driver from Puerto Rico. Matt Mars, the man from Lavelleville, from I think that would be Tennessee. It's a TN designation for the state. I hope I'm right. I will just double check.
You are correct, yes.
Ah, yes, good. I'm getting there with states and everything. I know one of my friends, Henry Baudet, will probably be saying, "Come on, you should know this kind of stuff. It's common commentator knowledge." Yes, but when you're dealing with sim racing leagues at silly o'clock in the morning UK time, but evening time, Eastern, Pacific, or Central, you've got to try and do what you can. Meantime, Jeremy Eshelman has now. Who is that that's gone through? That would have been Jay Davis in the very, very. Now, what I have to say is that look at the livery, folks, on Jay Davis's caddy on the hood of the car. When the sunlight hits that purple, it literally it's like it's been wrapped. So it's like has this kind of chroma flare paint style effect, and it changes shades of colour. I mean, that's another one. But I do have to say, let's have a look at PJ Wentline's number 3 caddy, because that is a livery I do recognise. Oh, that's the old Goodwrench livery back in the day. Oh, I'm so glad, and that has got the number 3 on it. And if you know about your NASCAR, you know who ran number 3. The man they called the Intimidator, Mr. Dale Earnhardt himself. That's brilliant from the man from Scranton, PA, PJ Wentline, for bringing back the Goodwrench livery as Brian Scott gets through on Anthony Sorrentino. That is for 7th position. We are nearly halfway through this race, and Anthony Jenkins has got a 1.7 second advantage over Brock Morris. And more to the point, Anthony Jenkins has got the fastest lap of the race at 35.427. And who has been the closest at the minute? Oh, and Sorrentino goes cross tracking. He's locked up. He's straight on. Oh dear! And what has happened behind him? Now Sorrentino. Oh, now hang on. That's Brian Scott. He's just. Oh right. There's. Oh no! Don't tell me this is Sorrentino's going to dart out at the last minute, and there's going to be an incident. Bang! Straight into the back of Brian Scott. He tags Mars from behind and tags Eshelman. Oh.
Yeah, I want to see that one more time from the perspective of Brian Scott. It's hard to tell. Or pardon me, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think the thing is that Brian Scott knew he had the 2 of Eshelman and Mars in front. So let's just take a look at this from the helicam. So he's braking now. Bang. Sorrentino does not notice. Sorrentino was right on his rear bumper and then smacked straight into the back of the 85 Porsche. And Eshelman and Mars both were very, very lucky indeed. As Breno Lopez, I think we are going to see all round here tonight, Marshall, a 2-stop strategy. And Breno Lopez pitted on lap number... He pitted on lap number 5, and he's only pitted another 12 laps later. Now, depending on how long this fuel stop could be for the number 2 Ferrari, is he trying El Grande undercut on everybody else? Because if he does that and gets anywhere in the top 3, that is going to be a very, very unlikely strategy that I think no one would have probably seen coming.
He's been creeping up through the field since that early pit stop. He's generally had pretty good run of pace comparatively to the rest of the field there in GTP, at least the drivers that are still left in this race, because we lost some big heavy hitters with Tankersley and now potentially Brian Scott and Sorrentino as well. The guy I want to highlight here that's going to benefit from all this, irregardless of strategy, is this gentleman here, driver the number 68, Evan Guillemette, Portland, Connecticut's own, as he tries to get by the LMP2 of, that is Broughton Jones there. But I want to give a shout out here to Evan Guillemette, because he was a P3 finisher last week there at Spa, as the commentator's curse comes and rears its head again.
No, it's not commentator's curse. You were just talking about him. It was a fate of circumstance. Something just ended up happening. And, another GTP with a meatball flag. Right. Okay, let's have a look at this. So, now, is this going to be unassisted? This is coming out of Ascari. Yeah, well, that was all on his own. I think he just maybe carried a little bit too much momentum into the final part of Ascari. And then you're just going to see he's going to turn it left. Car has a moment of its own and then bang, straight into the wall. And man from Portland, Connecticut, is now going to have to go into pit lane. And oh dear, it seems like our GTPs are having a rough ride as the man from Saxonburg, PA, Chase Matsko, who is now P3 in the Kimi Räikkönen Alfa Romeo Sauber Tribute livery car. Now, this is what happened to him. This is down into Rettifilio. Hard on the brakes. Turns it. Oh, well, that was, I think, maybe too much steering angle. Oh, and he just clips the, well, Broughton Jones thought he might have just cleared him. And, well, I have to give Chase a bit of credit there because he actually stopped it where, you know, he had to hold his brakes. So there he is. He spun it. He's held his brakes. Oh, he's rolled forward.
Yeah,
Now
I don't know about that.
That is going to be, I mean, if he hadn't rolled forward, then that might have been a bit different for Broughton Jones, who has now got Jay Davis closing in. Davis has gone through, and now Davis, Mr. Consistency,
right,
in the 317 Caddy V Series R, he's got an opportunity to go after Chase Matsko as Breno Lopez has an off-track, the Brazilian who is the earliest to pit. Everyone else has pitted, like, say, on lap 13, lap 12. So we are less than 30 minutes to go, and at the minute, well, Anthony Barranco is leading Broughton Jones after the triple four got an accidental slight tag. Chase Matsko is going to be left to the stewards to decide on that one. So I think that might be Chase investigating himself on that, possibly.
Yeah, we'll see what comes of that, but yeah, no, I wouldn't say it wasn't. You know, not all of them are created equal. Some of them you think you have more margins than others when you're rejoining the racetrack, and it's not so much putting your foot on the throttle; it's not quite getting it on the brake fast enough, and that's a mistake that hopefully you make once. Certainly within each car, it's a different habit, but we'll see what comes of that. Point being, you kind of started to talk about it there as we see. Once again, it's going to be Lopez passing a Vortex racing car in the LMP2 class, and just tucking ahead of Mars is going to be Decio Lima. He's going to take over P5, now into the top 5, back into the LMP2 class standings. Feels like everybody's been in the top 5 at some point, then gone out, then gone back in. That's just the kind of race day it's been here at Monza. But you were just about to talk about him there, and we'll see what Jay Davis can do to capitalize now that Chase Matsko, we know, has damage there. You can see it to the front end of that number 26 Alfa Romeo liveried Ferrari. But Jay Davis, I mean this in total credit to him. This is the kind of racing driver I love. He often will run in the probably 6 to 8 or 9 range in pure pace in terms of practice lapping prior to these races. But then he comes in and makes smart decisions. He's in good positions, and he just, generally speaking, picks his way through. And he runs consistent laps throughout the entire stint. First lap, 15th lap, doesn't matter. He runs good times, and it's why, along with his great participation, he's P3 in the points coming into today, and now he's in a very favorable position as he tracks down Chase in front of him, 10th by 10th as we keep going on here with Anthony Barranco, current leader in LMP2 right there in the middle. We'll see if he gets by here into turn 1, but what a drive it's been for Jay Davis, and what a day it would be if he could pick up that podium on Matsko.
Yeah, the other thing is, it's just set its personal best as well, Marshall, a 1:36.670, 1800s, well, 18 thousandths quicker than Chase Matsko. But there is the fastest 5 right now. Brock Morris, 35.61, Jenkins 35.77, Lopez 36.15, Gilmetz at 36.52, and Sorrentino at 36.65. Gustavo Ferraro is closing in on Broughton Jones for P3 at the moment. There is the man in the 777 from the Vortex Racing outfit. As you can see, well, he's got the stars and stripes on his racing gloves, and he's also got a good old Ford Performance hat on there. The man, you know, and it's got the big blue oval. Of course, Ford coming into the World Endurance Championship in the hypercar division along with McLaren. So it's going to be interesting to see the competitive nature of Jim Farley versus Zach Brown in the WEC paddock next year, which is going to be rather exciting. But unfortunately, Alpine will be leaving World Endurance after the end of this season. And I also hear that Acura are going to be parking their GTP antics in IMSA after this season. So we're gaining more new manufacturers into the GTP hypercar classes. I cannot wait, Marshall, if I'm completely honest with you, to see a Ford GTP and also a McLaren GTP on the grid on iRacing in the not too distant future, and especially when Ford is bringing Coyote power to LMDH in 2027. That's so exciting.
I can't wait. I'm as big of a Ford loyalist as they come when it comes to the world of motorsport. I think just independent of each other, often with some real garbage in the middle, but they put together some really beautiful race cars that I kind of love what the brand and what their style stands for. There's a good reason that I whether it's the best, most efficient meta pick on Monday nights in the GT3 series, I will die hard with the Mustang GT3 on Monday nights till the series shuts down. I love the way a lot of Ford cars handle, and of course that program coming back. The same as I can't wait to see what the Aston Martin Valkyrie can do in the world of IMSA over here in North America. I just love cars that come from that old school style of, okay, let's stick to some traditional values. Let's win it with horsepower and true racecraft first, and then we will worry about putting together a car that is efficient and environmental. But whatever it may be, yeah, there are some great cars coming down the pipeline, and unfortunately, the cost of it is we got to lose some really great teams, manufacturers, and various partnerships in the world of racing. Although credit to Acura, the same week they announced they'll be pulling out of IMSA and the top prototype class, they do go out and win the Grand Prix of Long Beach. So it's give and take in the world of racing.
Yeah, exactly. They've still got their NTT IndyCar Series commitments, and have to give a shout out to a person that I've known for a few years now, who is the voice of IndyCar on Fox, Will Buxton, formerly of the F1 TV crew, as Chase Matsko fires his way around one of the LMP2 back markers. But Anthony Jenkins is, with 23 minutes to go, still looking for what will be more than likely another win on the cards for him. And looking at it from this perspective, both Morris and Jenkins, they are on three. Morris on 3 wins, 5 top 5s, and at the moment, well, Jenkins looking for win number 3 as he gets through on PJ Wentline, so that's up to 6th place in the GTP division, now lapped by our race leader. If Jenkins gets the win here at Monza, it will put them 3 wins apiece heading into half-time of the series, as we will head to the Hockenheim ring for what would be an interesting 60 minutes around the 4.574 kilometer circuit. But at the minute, Jenkins is doing enough. He's over a 10.5 per, well, last time around, Brock Morris did a 35.9 on his last lap. Jenkins a 36.7. So Jenkins, the man from Tampa, Florida, versus Morris, the man from Lapeer, Michigan, too far outside of Dearborn, the headquarters of Ford Motor Company Global, is chasing the man down in the 732. And that gap is now down to 1.3 seconds. But at the moment, the way that Jenkins is just being consistent, he's hitting his marks on every corner, accelerating, trying not to use much runoff area, stay away from those pesky sausage curbs, especially through De La Rocha that we've seen catch a couple of drivers out here tonight, Marshall. It's just that Jenkins seems to be, I wouldn't say in cruise mode, he is just in I want to get another win kind of mode right now.
Yeah, it's so fascinating the way this dynamic has worked, because we've seen battles, we talked about it at the top of the broadcast today, almost every week between Jenkins and Morris in the late stages. If last week's race had finished after 60 minutes, they were battling, within half a second of each other at the 60-minute mark, and then they battled right to the final lap at the 90-minute mark. They're doing it again this week, and what's so fascinating about this dynamic, though, you could probably speak to it as well there, Alex, it feels like it is defender's advantage in this battle, maybe in the GTPs more broadly in this series. It always feels like they get close, it gets tight, it gets competitive right at the line, but whatever driver has been leading most of the way, in today's case, that would be Anthony Jenkins. As you see the laps led leaderboard, that's not a typo. He's taken every single one of the 24 laps thus far. It does feel like the driver that has the pace at the front always has a little bit more left in the tank in this battle. Today, that's Jenkins. But, as we see, well, there you go. We talked about the best laps of the race. New best lap of the race, and it is your leader. Anthony Jenkins cuts 4.5 tenths off his previous best lap to run a 1:35.2. Brock Morris, we talked about before, he runs it right on the limit. He finds pace in this race car, even at the cost of, you know, predictability with the grip and the balance in that race car. He's going to push it right to the limit, and that's probably going to get him up towards Anthony Jenkins. He's probably going to find pace here in the later stages, but it's one thing to catch him, it's another thing to pass him. And again, I think you'll speak to it, Alex. I find that car in the lead position often seems to have just a little bit more left in those crucial laps at the end of the race.
Yeah, Broughton Jones coming in on lap 23 of the race, so around about a 11 to 12 lap stint here in the LMP2 division. Well, all I'm going to say is Anthony Sorrentino, after 9 minutes and 24 seconds in the pit lane, has just exited. Yvan Guillemette, after that hard hit for the number 68, has been in there for over 10.5 minutes. So Eshelman and Lima now in, and Eshelman on his marks quicker. Here comes Brock Morris. So Anthony Jenkins, because of the fact that he has not been pushing 10 tenths like the 0.5 from Lapeer, Michigan, we could see a real close race on our hands. And at the minute, well, we're on lap number 25. So Jenkins and Barranco lead the way. Jay Davis closing in on Chase Matsko, who looks like he's going to dive down pit road, and he is. Davis now takes third spot, so he has found a little bit more fuel to play with. So that puts him 36.5 seconds behind Jenkins, but it's going to be about what happens next. Chase Matsko, 20.3 seconds on his pit stop. Jay Davis has a moment there, and that is going to cost him time in the battle for P2 and P3. Brock Morris goes straight on and nearly does a Marcus Ericsson. There's been a bit of a development there, because I saw now what was going on there. So Morris comes into, and that is one of the Vortex cars just in front, and Brock Morris just locks up the front left, completely goes straight on, has to serve a slowdown penalty. He didn't do like Marcus Ericsson did one year, hit the back of another vehicle, go firing through the air like a rocket ship down that same exit road. So Brock Morris now finds himself, that is 47 seconds behind Anthony Jenkins, and it's the 119 that was just in front of him, Decio Lima, that he had to get out of the way and avoid going through to Rettifilio and through out of the second Lesmo. Morris has a little bit of a wobble trying to apply the power as Jenkins is in pit lane. So is Gustavo Ferraro. Ferraro off of his jacks. So is Jenkins. Jenkins is now fueling as we speak. So the big weight is on. Jay Davis is about 0.6 of a mile on his way through. Brandon Anderson returns to the track 10th in the moment as Christopher Pugliese gets a black flag. That's more for likely going to be incident point limit being hit. The man in the Spider-Man livery is being closed in on by Breno Lopez. So Anthony Jenkins, 19 seconds as Jay Davis, after he lost that time, he is now coming to pit road, loses out second position. But the big thing is Breno Lopez is going to take P3. Chase Matsko. Chase Matsko has just had a big old off as Pugliese comes in to serve his black flag penalty. Barranco in the pits, and that is for the second and final time. So let's see what happened with Chase Matsko. This is going to be down into Ascari. I don't like the look of this. Straight away the front end snaps one way to the left and then instantly goes right and throws him into the kitty litter. And Chase Matsko, who was looking for a podium or higher this week here at Monza, that has just, I think, possibly cost him the opportunity. Let's have a look on board. So he turns left, car instantly snaps, goes to the right, spins him around.
It was a big correction on the way back, and the fact that car so violently whipped the second he put any right steering input into it makes me think it was probably just a cold tire situation coming back out of pit road. The way lap times are falling off, you more than likely we are going to see drivers taking some form of tire here on the last stop. You might alternate the opposite of whatever you took on the first. So if you took fronts at the first stop, you might take rears in the second. Either way, though, it's been a really tricky-looking track to navigate here today, and it's going to be interesting here for Anthony Jenkins now that the pit cycle's worked out, now that more or less he should be smooth sailing all the way to the finish. 4.3-second advantage to Brock Morris. We'll see how Brock recovers after that early lockup. But that's the thing is if you're Anthony Jenkins there, that final pit stop, the math for you on tires probably changes if you're keeping up well enough to know that Brock had that incident, that big loss of time. Because, hey, if you get a little bit of extra time, if you see guys are going off everywhere, all over the place, yeah, take an extra couple tires. Give yourself that stability. Give yourself that comfort, because you never know. At a certain point, it's about, just as much about surviving the race independently as it is trying to, beat other cars in terms of pure pace and potentially beat them for the win. And speaking of that win in the LMP2 class, it might be Anthony Branco's to take in his debut in the LMP2 class. Not his debut on Thursday nights. He was here running the one-off GT3 race there at Spa when we did the triple class. He's in a pretty favorable spot right now. To keep an eye, though, on Broughton Jones, who sits there in P2 today, would be by far his best performance of the season. And it's something about racing, isn't it, Alex? If you get a really good, breakout performance from a driver a little bit further back in the field, sometimes it's not just a good performance, surprise podium. Sometimes it's Pierre Gasly in an Alpha Tauri getting a race win here at Monza.
Or even if you cast your mind back to 2008 when Sebastian Vettel in the wet here at Monza for what was known as Scuderia Toro Rosso took pole position and then went to win in the wet. Christopher Pugliese comes into the pit lane again, so I think he's just taken his second stop last time round and has decided, oh yeah, I've still got the black flag, you've got to serve my penalty, which means he cannot stop in, he stopped in pit lane again. If he gets the black flag with the white X across it, that is it. Man from Erie, Pennsylvania could get excluded from the race itself and be dropped behind Aaron Sanford, because that would be a disqualification. But that is dependent on what happens now, because that is Pugliese's third pit stop, and he's been in there for nearly half a minute. So the car is up having the full service, so fuel and tyres, not including driver change. So 13 minutes on the clock and a new fastest lap. Brock Morris 1:35.133. That gap was about 4 seconds. It's come down big time. Last time round he took 1.6 seconds out of Anthony Jenkins, who had a 36.760. Morris on a 35.133. Brock Morris has now decided it's go time. Let's go after my main championship rival, who's not that far ahead of me.
This is going to be a huge race for the overall championship. We talked about last week in the interview post-race with Anthony Jenkins. What do you need to do differently? What do you need to do better than Brock the rest of the way to win the championship? And he just talked about execution, about picking up those, proper results at the end of races that you control. And he has controlled today. We'll remind you, laps led, he has dominated. He's almost shut out that leaderboard over the field. He needs to bring this race home, and this is one of those ones that if you have this much pace in the race car, especially when you're running the same car as your championship rival Brock Morris, if you go out there, if you control, if you clearly have had the run of form since the drop of the green when you took the pole, you need to wrap these race wins up, because with how few points separate P1 and P2 in points awarded every single race, if you want to keep this championship in your hands, if you're Anthony Jenkins, if you don't want to need Brock Morris to have an off week or make a mistake in order for you to have a chance at the championship, you got to cap races like this off. And Brock Morris is going to push him all the way to the finish. Took another 3/10 out that time by through 1 and 2. We have 10 minutes, actually 11 and a half left to go in this race. That is plenty of time for the 05 car to make a challenge.
Breno Lopez is coming for a third stop, I've just seen. That is going to now promote Jay Davis. Azul moment there for Pugliese. Had a bit of a Code Brown moment there as Anthony Jenkins went through the inside of the first of the two Lesbos, the 420 from Pennsylvania in the Spider-Man away from home livery, who has now finally served his drive-through penalty, gotten rid of that black flag. But it has been a race of attrition. Aaron Sanford, the only driver that did not get past the opening lap, as Brock Morris fires his way through on Anderson, I believe, who is all the way down in 9th, and he is way, way down. He's like 3 minutes and 40 seconds off of Barranco. And there we see a brief glimpse of his setup. But now it is Messrs Jenkins and Morris. Is it going to be the case that Morris extends his championship lead by a modicum of points, or is it that Jenkins will equal him on race victories with just 10 minutes to go? And when we're lapping at a 1 minute, let's say a 1 minute 35, Morris again has taken chunks out of Jenkins. Last time around it was nigh on 0.4 of a second. And Morris having the fastest lap of the race at this moment in time, out of the top 5 that you see on the bottom right hand corner, 35.47 for Morris, 35.86 for Jenkins, Matsko 36.31, Gilmel 36.52, and he is now currently 8th in the GTP class, 18th overall. He has been in the pits for 20 minutes. I don't think he will be coming out in the number 68 again for the remainder of this race. I think he's just decided to pull time because that will classify him 8th come the end of the race itself. And then looking at the retirements we've had also along with that, we've had Brian Scott and Zach Tankersley both retiring on lap 16 and lap 14. Tankersley hard into the barriers when there was a hardware failure. And the car went zooming into the outside wall on the right-hand side of the second half of Della Roggia at about 170 miles an hour, straight on into the barriers. Jacob Brown retiring on lap number 9. In terms of the LMP2s, I'm pleased to report that Mekong Ginzoni, he's decided, you know what, I'm going to use this as a little bit of a tester. And credit where credit is due for someone like Mekong Ginzani, who has been ruling the roost of the LMP2 division courtesy of Vortex for the last few rounds. Excuse me. He's completed now. He's on his 17th lap, and Aaron Sanford is the only retiree that we have got in the LMP2 division. But Jenkins at the minute is nearly halfway through lap number 32 of this race. So I would say we're probably going to hit 30, 35, 36 laps come the checkered flag here at Monza. And, well, Jenkins at the moment, that gap has started to expand because Jenkins himself has just put in a 35.099, the first one to dip under the 35.1s. Brock Morris, I'm wondering if he's starting to struggle a little bit now because the gap has expanded. He lost nearly 6.5 tenths of a second in the previous tour. The gap has imploded upwards. It's gone from 1.1 seconds and it's doubled. It's up to 2.2 as Jenkins now this time gets through on race leader in the LMP2 division, the Rebellion number 59 of Anthony Barranco, who's done a storming job and leads the field by 8 seconds ahead of Broughton Jones, with Gustavo Ferraro in the number 777 rounding out your LMP2 top 3. But there has been drama. Jay Davis has lost P3 to Chase Matsko in the meantime.
He has. Yeah, let's go grab the replay there on the pass for him. I think it would have to be somehow assisted, and it was. Jay Davis did go off the racetrack in turn number 4. There he is. We will get a proper replay for you of what exactly went wrong for the driver of the 317, who at the time was looking on pace for his first podium in the series.
Oh, he's just locked up the brakes. He's completely mistimed the right-hander in the second half of Della Roggia. Chase Matsko's gone, yep, thank you very much, Jay. I'll take that all day to the bank. And as Davis deposits gravel onto the exit of Della Roggia, and pebble dashing everyone's windscreens and front hoods on their respective prototype cars, it still is the case of the battle is coming thick and fast. As we are on lap 33, little flash of the headlights from the number 05, the man from Lapeer, Michigan. Brock Morris is now in full-on chase mode to try and see if he can get past and pick up his 4th win of the series. These are the only 2 drivers in the GTP division that between them have won all the races so far in the GTP division. When you look at the LMP2, we've got 2 wins for Eshelman, 1 for Ginzoni, 1 for Sales, 1 for Anderson. So it is just the case of how can drivers pick themselves up, and Anthony Jenkins will cross the stripe now. So with 5 minutes and 40 to go, that is going to give us 4 laps, including this one. So we are on lap 34. So when we get to lap 30, when we get to the completion of lap 36, that will be last lap, and that will be 37 laps of this racetrack, which measures 3.6 miles, 5.793 kilometers, And if people say to me, how can you remember that? Well, certain tracks tend to stick in your mind. By checkered flags end, gone of over 133 miles of competitive race distance. But Morris is slowly but surely closing that gap. And last time round, Jenkins, a high 35.6, Morris, a high 35.1. So the chase is on. The gap has now come to under a second for the first time in a very, very long time. And Jay Davis has also lost out to Breno Lopez in the number 2. So Ferrari occupying 3rd and 4th and 7th in the GTP classification. We've got just over 4 minutes and 20 seconds remaining on the timer. And Jay Davis in the caddy, 3:17. Oh, and Matt Mars has just hit his incident point limit, so the number 34. And from Nobleville, Tennessee, you can just see, there's his get up on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That car is not steering as it should do, so I think that, yeah, there's damage to the left front of the car. So I think there's something that's gone awry for Matt Mars, and he's having to turn a bit more distinctively right hand down when he goes through a right-hander. So that is not, the steering is not 100% tracking true, as we again get to see the over-the-shoulder cam for Anthony Jenkins, the man from Tampa, Florida. He still has an 0.8 of a second advantage over Jenkins, and they have got one of the, I think it's Pugliese just in front of them in the number 420, possibly. Oh, well, I couldn't really make out which car it was, but if it is the Spider-Man car, then it is in front of Jenkins, and now the gap is closing. 4/10 out of Lesmo 2. Now this is going to be crucial with Jenkins. He's got to make it decisive, goes to the right-hand side, and it's James Tankersley. So I would say that that is probably brotherly relation to Zach, who unfortunately retired on lap 14 after that big hit on the wall. But now, after this, it is going to be 2 laps to go, and the chase is on. Morris versus Jenkins. Who will be the winner here at Monza? Stick with us here on Racer Nexus as Macon Ginzoni comes into the pits through Curva Alboreto. Morris closer on the apex. Jenkins starting to stretch the legs on the caddy, but Morris is now going to be in that all-important slipstream, and they're going to be pushing over 180 miles an hour down into Resifilio as we have 2 laps remaining.
We're in for another all-timer. Here we go. Morris very late on the brakes. Unbelievable to get that car rotated on entry. Runs a little bit wide, does Anthony Jenkins, but he keeps it out of the kitty litter, so he'll get good exit speed there out of turn number 2. He's going to have a few opportunities here as Morris. Actually not too beneficial to go for it here in this section. You really set yourself up for another chance in the late part of this lap. I know Brock Morris, he runs that car right on the ragged edge through Ascari. I saw him do it in the GT3s last week. That may be his best opportunity. And watch Arroyo here. He's going to play a huge element as he goes wide. Can both cars get by him? That's huge for Brock Morris to not get held up by that situation. Get ready for a big run here into Ascari.
And Brock Morris is the first driver all race long that has broken under 1 minute 35 on a true race pace lap. 1:34.848 into Ascari. Here on lap number 36 out of 37. We have 1 minute and 20 on the timer. It's now about how hard can Jenkins defend against Morris for the victory here at round number 6 out of 12 here for the Freedom Motorsport Alliance Prototype Challenge Series at the Temple of Speed. Into turn 11 at Curva Alboreto we go. And it's going to be one more time. White flag in the air. Jenkins gets sideways as he applies the power through the final corner at Alboreto. And here we go. 3.6 miles of flat-out GTP racing here at the Temple of Speed as we ride on board with Jenkins heading down into the Resifilio for the final time here on lap 37. Hard on the brakes all the way down the gearbox from 6th to 1st to around about 50 miles an hour. Now open up the steering and accelerate and look at the traction that Jenkins is trying to get. Morris is trying to stay in his wheel tracks into Curva Grande here at turn number 3. On the run to De La Roggia at turns 4 and 5. Gap is 2.5 tenths and closing. Morris has got one opportunity to do this. It could be a photo finish like we saw at round 1 6 weeks ago at Daytona. And now Morris has really got the bit between his teeth, the fire lit in the belly as they go through into Lesmo 1. Now it's the short blast up to Lesmo 2. Jenkins just about holding on. A little flash of the headlights by Brock Morris saying to Anthony Jenkins, keep pushing, buddy. I'm coming with you for the ride. Timer has officially expired. We have hit 60 minutes on the buzzer in towards the Ascari chicane for the final time. Gap is 4/10. Now can Morris really exploit that straight line slipstream advantage through out of Ascari down into Curva Alboreto. The gap is 3/10 and closing. Jenkins has got to make that car wide as humanly possible. He goes to the left side of the circuit to try and bring the corner rotation through Curva Alboreto, but it is going to be the run to the line. Can Morris finally get out of the final corner? He's going wide to get the acceleration out of that final corner. It's going to be the run to the line. Here is the checkered flag, and it is going to go the way of Anthony Jenkins. It's 3 wins apiece, heading into Hockenheim for the second half of the series, starting next week. Jenkins wins here at Monza.
What a battle that was, right to the finish. Oh my goodness, could Brock Morris get close but couldn't quite make the pass. Anthony Jenkins, an absolute animal on defense, looking calm and composed as he always does, but that's one you got to think takes a little bit more out of you. What a drive there, and what a drive for this man, my very own teammate on Monday nights at FMA GT3, Anthony Franco, making his debut in the LMP2 class here on Thursday night Prototype Challenge. He is your race winner in the second class of Prototype. I want to give props, though, to the gentleman who's going to come home in P2 tonight. That is the best drive I've seen all season from Broughton Jones here on Thursday nights. What a performance. That podium rounded off by one of our good friends of the broadcast, Mr. Gustavo Ferraro, the gentleman in the lovely Ford Performance hat. He looks pretty calm. He looks pretty composed, but another guy you got to think, with how much this race clearly took out of a lot of drivers, he's got to feel pretty happy the way this turned out. The final gentleman we should point out there on the ledger in the GTP class is Chase Matsko, coming home in P3.
Yes, indeed. And also, well, the Alfa Romeo Kimi Raikkonen tribute band played its tune, and he brings a Ferrari onto the podium here at Autodromo Nazionale Monza. But Anthony Jenkins ties it in GTP, and here comes a little bit of celebration for the man from Tampa, Florida, coming out of the second Lesmo. But what can you say? 60 minutes of Monza, as there we go. The donuts are being spun around by the Cadillac. Number 732. The man from Tampa, Florida, does it again. A blinding grandstand finale at such a fabled circuit, the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza, here in the Royal Park, just a stone's throw from the fashion capital of the world, Milan. As well, Anthony Jenkins won, well, pretty much won that. He led every single lap. Lights out, checkered flag. Total distance covered around about 133 miles. Hardest charger of the evening, it goes to James Tankersley. 9 positions gained. Brock Morris, the only driver that got underneath 1 minute 35, a 1:34.848, trying to chase down our eventual race winner. Chase Matsko rounds out the top 3 as the Cavallino Rampante hits the podium on home soil. It was a Ferrari 3-4 courtesy of Bruno Lopez. Jay Davis, Mr. Consistency in the 317 Caddy, missed out on a podium this time, but can he strike back at Hockenheim next week? Also, with that, PJ Wentline in the Good Wrench number 3 livery rounded out the top 6 ahead of Anthony Sorrentino. We had retirements in the GTP field. Ivan Gilmet, Brian Scott, both retiring their FMA Porsches on laps 18 and 16, with Zach Tankersley having the biggest off tonight on lap 14 at Della Roggia, going straight on the right-hand side of the chicane at over 160 miles an hour. Jacob Brown retired on lap number 9. Then we go to the LMP2 division. Anthony Barranco in the Rebellion number 59 wins here at Monza by 6.7 seconds ahead of Broughton Jones, with Gustavo Ferraro from Vortex Racing bringing Brazil another podium here in the FMA Prototype Challenge Series. Decio Lima was leading at one point, but dramas for him during Della Roggia meant that he would end up fourth, ahead of Jeremy Escherman, who continues to lead the point standings after the halfway point of the series. Matt Mars, James Tankersley, Ignacio Arroyo, and Brandon Anderson with Krista Pugliese made it to the end of the race, with some of them being 2 laps down. Macon Ginzoni and Aaron Sanford were the last 2 classified drivers, with Aaron Sanford not even getting past Della Roggia on lap 1. Well, with that in mind, it's time to turn our attention to our post-race interview show. And you know what? We're going to start straight away with our GTP division. Let's bring in the man that has made it 3 apiece in the GTP division, Anthony Jenkins, who have just tied Brock Morris for 3 wins apiece as you took it by next to nothing with a photo finish here at Monza. How are you feeling, my friend? You must be over the moon right now.
Yeah, I'm super happy. I knew that Brock would be fast, and he was. He was quick in practice, and fortunately I qualified well, which helped. I had clean air the whole race, and yeah, just glad I didn't make any mistakes and could bring home a W.
Indeed. Now, big question. Obviously, we've seen in previous races where we've had 60 minutes. Of course, Spa was the first one that we went 90 minutes last week. I did catch the action as it happened whilst I was on my way to Heathrow Airport because I was flying here, there, and everywhere. But a 2-stop strategy seemed to be the optimum here because, you know, you're at this circuit. You guys are full throttle for over 75% of the race itself. It is a case of sometimes you have to mitigate the pit stops in order to think, well, how is it going to be the fastest way to get around this circuit?
Yeah, the second stint I actually had to save a little fuel because I was so focused on getting out ahead of Brock, and he undercut me both stops, so I had to save a little fuel. Fortunately, just barely made it over the line.
But still, we head into the second half of the Prototype Challenge Series next week. We go from Italy, we head to Hockenheim in Germany for another 60 minutes. How are you thinking about what might happen there for your good self? Because you know what, with the way that you and Brock have been giving us so much to talk about here in the Global Broadcast Centre, that we can't wait to see you guys resume your rivalry that started with Brock pipping you at Daytona, and here we are 6 weeks later, and you're both on 3 wins apiece.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to prepare. You know, I've been putting in my time every week, and I know Brock is too. So I'm gonna bring the best race I can.
Well, congratulations, Anthony, on once again hitting victory lane. Before we let you go, anyone you want to say thanks or give a shout out to for tonight?
I want to thank you guys for the broadcast, the FMA guys, Brock for pushing me every week, and my wife for putting up with this nonsense.
Well done tonight, buddy. Victory lane again for Anthony Jenkins, the man from Tampa, Florida. Anthony, we'll see you next week at Hockenheim for week 7.
So.
Big thank you there to Anthony Jenkins. And, well, it was close. It was just under 0.2 of a second. But now joining Marshall Crocker, it's our runner-up, Brock Morris. Over to you, Marshall.
Well, Mr. Morris, it feels like it's a weekly tradition. We're going to chat with you here on Thursday nights. Tonight I get the pleasure, but unfortunately by only a number of tenths, the exact margin at the line being 19 hundredths of a second. You just come up short to your season rival, Anthony Jenkins. What was it that made the difference tonight? What one thing could have gone different that we'd be flipping these 2 interviews to start the broadcast?
Honestly, I don't really think it was one thing. It felt like he was just overall better all night, if I'm being honest. Like, just in a lot of the high speed corners, like Parabolica, Lesmo 2, like he was just getting such a great run out of those corners, and I just couldn't compete in those. And I tried to do some strategy at the end, taking 4 tires and just pushing as hard as I could, but another factor was just I made a lot of unforced errors tonight. I think I had 2 slowdowns coming out of the pits. I had to take the runoff area. Like, yeah, those were going to keep me up tonight, most likely. But yeah, all in all, I'm pretty happy with the margin at the end because I felt like in the middle there when he had like 3 seconds on me, I had nothing for him. So yeah, overall, pretty proud of tonight. I'm hoping this is a weekly tradition to have finishes this close because it makes it so much fun. Like even after an hour, like we were less than 2/10 apart, and last week we had an hour and a half, less than I think half a second there. So yeah, I could get used to this for sure. Just a lot of fun out on track.
Oh, that's what I like to hear. Yeah, you've made 6 weeks out of it so far, and the way it looks like it isn't a choice. You guys are going to end up getting this close. That's just going to be the way it shapes out with how close your guys' pace is. Well, we talk a little bit about back and forth. Hey, here's what seems to go well for Brock. Here's what seems to go well for Anthony. But we know you're probably going to be happy to have Monza in the rearview mirror between this and GT3 last Monday going forward. But in terms of track types that really are going to suit you, the fact that you and Anthony both run the Cadillac together, what tracks, what kinds of races, maybe even with the endurances coming up this season, where can we kind of pencil you in for, okay, this should be a good week for Brock against Jenkins in the title fight?
Yeah, usually I tend to think of like the more low speed tracks as tracks that I like. Typically just anything like in some of the slower corners tonight, like those were the only places I felt either as good or better than Anthony. And I feel like that's been pretty consistent throughout the season, is just in the low speed, I might have a little bit of an edge. So it doesn't look like there's a ton of low speed corner tracks coming up, but Hockenheim usually pretty good there, which him and I have had a pretty big slugfest in GT3 there before. So hopefully we get another one there. Watkins Glen is always a good one for me. Sebring is always a good one. So, but yeah, the other ones I think are going to be kind of a wild card. I don't think I've ever learned Silverstone before. So that's going to be a new one for this and GT3. But yeah, and then Imola I have to miss for just some family stuff going on. But yeah, hoping to maybe get a little bit of a one-up on him on a couple of the races here. Probably going to have to spend a little bit more time practicing.
Well, again, similar to what I said last week, I'm really sad to hear you're not super experienced with Silverstone, especially for the GT3. It's a real shame that you're not going to be at Apex form for that one. But jokes aside, anybody want to shout out at home, maybe watching you or otherwise, Brock?
Absolutely. Juicy Spider Studios, Highside Podcast, Kettering University, Kettering Esports. Got to shout out you guys up here in the booth, and then FMA for putting this whole deal on. It's been a blast so far this season at our halfway point.
Always a pleasure, Brock. We will see you on Monday night.
All right, I will see you.
So, a big thank you there to our runner-up in the GTP, but the Tifosi are happy here at Monza because of Ferrari has hit the podium. Chase Matsko. God, that was a bit of an adventure for the Kimi Räikkönen Alfa Romeo Sauber tribute livery band there tonight, wasn't it?
Ugh, that's the worst podium I've ever got in my life.
But you must be breathing a bit of a sigh of relief anyway, Chase, because, Monza is the temple of speed. You guys in the GTPs, I think at one point, Anthony Jenkins broke the top speed trap at one point. He was 2 miles an hour off of the magic 200. I mean, it's fast and frantic here at Monza, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's a good time. I need to start playing around with my setups myself because I was trying all the different ones this week and I just couldn't find one I like. So I got to start doing some research on these cars. Respond to the changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and nevertheless, a podium at Monza in an Italian car is always a good feeling, right?
Yeah, double Italian, Ferrari car, Alpha paint, can't beat it.
Yeah. I was saying to Marshall a little bit earlier on, I was kind of wondering whether you might bring the full Cavallino Rampante, the wet livery that we normally see on these cars here to Monza on its home soil. But you know what? I have to say, good for you for sticking by your guns and keeping in the Alfa Romeo Sauber livery with the Giulia windscreen front sticker on it as well for good measure. I mean,
yep.
But still, like I say, a podium's a podium, but go to Hockenheim next week for the first part of the second half of the series. It is a long slog from now right up until the double points 2-hour finale at Watkins Glen on June 4th. And now it's a case of, as you said, play with setups, get the cars sort of dialed in. How do you think things are going to happen for you in Hockenheim in a week's time?
If I do bad there, that's not good for me. That's probably my second best track of iRacing. So I hope to do pretty good there. Road Atlanta's probably number one, so I did pretty good there. Just had that one mistake. Probably could have won it, but hopefully I can do the same next week there.
Well, Chase, nevertheless, congratulations despite going through the ringer here at Monza tonight. You pick up P3. Before we let you go, anyone you want to give a shout out to, say thank you for tonight.
Just FMA and you guys for putting on a good broadcast.
Brilliant. Well, Chase, thanks for your time, buddy. And we'll see you next week for the start of the second half of the FMA Prototype Challenge Series as we head to Germany and to the Hockenheim Ring. Well done on the podium tonight.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, now we go to the LMP2 side of things, and it is my pleasure to bring in a teammate of my partner in crime in the commentary box. Joining Marshall Crocker is our LMP2 winner in the Rebellion Racing livery number 59. He's joined by Anthony Branco.
Yeah, and in what can only be described as a massive conflict of interest, it's a pleasure to welcome my my Iron Horse Motorsports teammate, Anthony Branco. Anthony, not your debut in the series. You came out last week and ran the GT3s in that one-off triple class at Spa. You seem to take pretty darn well to this Dallara P217. What was it there that clicked for you after that early mistake in turn one?
Truth be told, I don't really, other than us just running it in the GT3 league, like a week and a half ago. I don't know. I feel like Monza's a pretty straightforward track. Nothing super technical about it. Yeah, I wasn't putting down the times that forget the gentleman's name, but he was like a half second clear of everybody in the field. He started third. I couldn't find where he was getting that time from, but then there was like 5 of us that were about the same time. So I was surprised pleasantly. First time racing this car, probably did about a half-hour practice prior to the session starting, and then the practice session. So I don't know. It just worked.
Well, maybe you're going to be a reporter in the field then, and a partial third party, because we've talked so much about this season on the broadcast, how tricky these opening laps are, particularly in the LMP2s, and we saw it last week in the GT3s the same way. So hard to get up to temperature here with the tires at Monza. Those first couple laps are treacherous. Do you see, potentially from a driver's perspective, why it's been so tough for the LMP2 guys at the start of races? Was this thing pretty hard to handle there early on?
That was a big part of my practice, was just those first couple laps, just making sure I could see how the car felt, but probably just the low downforce of the car. Since these cars don't have much mechanical grip, I figure it's definitely because the low, and we're running the low downforce. I could definitely see that being a bigger cause for problems if you're used to. I mean, it caught me out a couple times, locked up and spun, just because I'm not used to driving these things. But that's got to be it. The lack of mechanical grip and the increased downforce.
Well, nobody's really fully taken this series, especially in the LMP2 class, taking the bull by the horns when it comes to getting consistent race wins. Or, wrap up with your final thoughts. And are we going to see in this car again down the rest of the way in the Thursday Prototype Challenge?
If time permitting, we'll see. I don't know if they're going to do the multi-class thing again later on. Then I'll have to pick. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'll definitely I'll try and pop in a few more times.
Good stuff, Anthony. Always a pleasure. I will especially, I'd imagine, be seeing you and talking to you plenty on Monday, and hopefully we'll see you again on Thursday nights in this territory here soon.
All right, I'll see you in Mexico.
We will see you there. Mexico should be a darn fun one. Those of you that want to watch FMA GT3 on Monday night, get ready for a very similar low downforce chaos turn one circuit, very similar to Monza. That one should be plenty fun. I believe next up, Alex, you got a gentleman I'm very excited to see here in P2. Feels like a breakout performance today for the driver of the 444. He's with Alex Goldschmidt.
Broughton Jones, good evening. Can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Well, all I can say is, Broughton, welcome to the podium. Second place here at Monza, but you weren't without having your dramas, weren't you? I mean, especially when we saw Chase Matsko spin in front. He rolled forward, clips the left rear of you, and you go spinning. But nevertheless, you got second at Monza tonight. Well done.
Yeah, overall, it was a tough race. The pace was really strong, though. I feel like I had really good pace. I really was looking for a win here tonight, but I got caught up in those 2 incidents at the race start and caught up in the bus stop, so that sucks.
But still, nevertheless, it means that the pace, all the effort over the past 6 weeks have been worth it. You've got some modicum of success, but obviously we now go into the second half of the series. We head to Hockenheim next week, and then, you know, the calendar just gets even more colourful from then. We've got Le Mans on May 7th, Silverstone for the first of two-hour endurance races we've got on the calendar, Imola, Sebring, Watkins Glen for the double points 2-hour finale. Which of those tracks are you really, really looking forward to getting stuck down into the nitty-gritty of going for wins?
I'm really looking forward to Silverstone. I'm pretty strong there. Currently, I'm 31 points back from the leader, so I think by then I can close that gap up and maybe have a chance to win it all.
Yeah. Well, Broughton, congratulations on your second place finish. I think your best result of the series so far. Well done tonight. And before we let you go, anyone you want to give a shout out to in particular?
I appreciate everything Racer Nexus does, and FMA. It's an awesome league, awesome broadcast. Y'all guys do amazing, and really looking forward to what's to come in the future.
Brilliant. Broughton, thanks a lot for your time, buddy, and we'll see you next week for week 7 at Hockenheim.
See ya.
And for our final interview of the evening in the post-race interview show, Brazil hit the podium, so do Vortex Racing, because joining Marshall Crocker right now, a very, very good evening to Gustavo Ferraro.
Well, it was
Hey,
meant
guys.
to be. We knew, Gustavo. We knew this was going to be your week when we got your camera working. That was the sign of good
Oh,
things
yeah,
to
man.
come, and we got you on there plenty today. You had a fun race all the way from start to finish. Let's start with all the difficulty at the beginning. You know, you and some of your Vortex teammates and really the entire field, lots of chaos, lots of trials and tribulations at the beginning. What was so hard to get a handle of for the entire field and the LMP2s at the start tonight?
Yeah, it was pretty. First, good night, guys. And then, yeah, it was pretty good to watch there on the first row. So the whole bar in front of me there, it was crazy. I was not just engaging the brakes, watching the mirror, and just praying a little bit. Right, you got to be lucky some days. So we got lucky there. Saw Dasu just pass me on the right, and then I just follow him, and we're P3 right there. So and then just keep up the whole race. Made some mistakes, but could hold the P3. It was pretty good.
Yeah, no, I mean, trials and tribulations and all the difficulties there at the beginning, but you sure did bounce back a lot better than a lot of other drivers have, and that seems to be kind of the story of your season this whole year. You know, you and a lot of other drivers will occasionally have the slip up early, but you seem to be really good at getting back in a rhythm at the late stages of this race, and that's how you make up all these positions. If you had to decide between the two, spend more time on the flat out pace, maybe qualifying further up, maybe having a little more pace per lap versus practicing getting a little bit more consistent, that, you know, ability to just stay on the racetrack, make sure you're finishing races, finishing every lap. What do you think is going to be more valuable for these LMP2 drivers the rest of the way, speed or consistency?
For sure, consistency. Even though it's not a huge endurance, but it's 1 hour race, right? So you got to stop 2 times. There's some strategy there. Some cars, I just heard Anthony ran the whole race without changing tires. I changed my tires every time I stopped. Probably, again, just confirming that the consistency, I think, make us to be in the top 5, top 3 there. It all depends. But for sure, you gotta have some pace too, right? So.
Well, you talk about the consistency. These 60-minute races aren't quite an endurance. Well, we got 2-hour endurances left in the season on May 14th and June 4th. Next 3 races: Hockenheim, Le Mans, and then Silverstone. That'll take us to the middle of May. Any of those 3 racetracks particular catching your eye for the rest of the schedule?
Oh, I love Le Mans. I think Le Mans would be interesting. So it's a long track, right? 4 minutes something. Maybe with LMP2's a little faster, but it's a long track. Some very technical corners there, fast corners, straights. We'll see that. That would be important. But I like Hockenheim too. It's old Formula One, right? Old school Formula One thing. I remember when Ayrton Senna probably raced over there, so it was pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, that was probably back in the day when they used to run through the forest, Gustavo, and then it changed quite a lot to the circuit that we see now. But yeah, I mean, What a crazy race for you guys in LMP2, man. I have to say, we spotted on your webcam that you're proudly sporting a Ford Performance hat on your head at the moment. Tell us why.
Because I'm a Ford guy, man. I'm a Brazilian, but once I get to US, first car I bought here, bought my F350 so I can pull my toys. And I just got a Mustang, little old Mustang, 2011 Mustang, Coyote. So I love Ford, so this is why.
I'm so glad to hear that, because Gustavo, well done tonight on getting through all the madness here at Monza. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to say thank you to in particular, buddy?
All right, man. Thank you, guys. Good night. So congratulations for everyone there.
Brilliant. And that, as they say, wraps up our post-race interview show. I'm so glad, Marshall, I quizzed Gustavo on the Ford Performance hat, and he's an F350 driver, and he's got a 2011 Mustang on the driveway, so that's even better.
You ask all the right questions. That's a pro's touch there to think about that, and there you go. Like, what did I say? Us Ford fanatics. It's not one thing. It's the whole catalog.
Indeed, it's the whole shebang, as they say. Coming up on the FMA Freedom Motorsport Alliance Prototype Challenge Series, you can catch all the action, same place, same time. The green flag will normally be at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Endurance race start times will be earlier depending on what the organisation tell us. However, we head to Hockenheim next week, then Le Mans, the Circuit de la Sarthe, where legends are born on May 7th for a 60-minute enduro around, longest circuit in the endurance season calendar. The home of British motorsport, Silverstone, will host the first of two-hour enduros on May the 14th. Then we go to the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari at Imola on May 21st. Sebring International Raceway in Florida will host the penultimate round and the final 60-minute encounter on this 12-week calendar. But then we head to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, to the Glen for 120 minutes, and more to the point, it is the June 4th double points finale. A big thank you to all our competitors tonight, 23 of them taking to the grid here at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. It's 3 apiece between Anthony and Brock when it comes to our GTPs, and Barasco ruling the roost bellissimo here at Monza. What is going to happen in 7 days' time? Well, you're going to have to join myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Marshall Crocker up here in the Racing Nexus broadcast booth for more further action as it happens live and trackside. A big thank you to everyone that has been watching, everyone that has liked, shared, and subscribed. And a big thank you also to our good friends at Apex Sim Racing Shop. If you want to get the latest technology from companies such as SimuCube and SimMagic, use the referral link down in the description below. Use the coupon code RacerNexus on checkout to get a 5% discount on all purchases. And as always, our friends at TrackCams22.com. TrackCams for connoisseur. Well, we say ciao Monza, and then we say los geht's Hockenheim, just 7 days time. Until next time, race hard, race fair, and if like here at Monza, well, you better go flat out. We'll see you next time.